Hello guys. Uh, Today we are going to discussing about the excitatory neurotransmitter in CNS, that is glutamate. That is the vital plays and vital important role in neurotransmitter in the central nervous systems. So what it is the what it is and how it will work, what is the mechanism behind it, we will discuss one by one. So first of all, what is glutamate? It's a most abundant neurotransmitter which we will found in the central nervous system, brain and central nervous system. And basically it's involved virtually every major excitatory brain function. While if we consider excitation as very specific meaning and neuroscience in general terms, an excitatory neurotransmitter, what happen? It will increase the likelihood that the neuron is act upon will have an action potential, or you can also call this nerve impulse. When an action potential or a nerve impulse is said to fire, with that fire in, in this case being somewhat akin to the completion or generation of an activation of an electrical circuit that occur when a light is switch is turned on. Means what happen when you switch on the light, then there is a activation of the electrical circuit. The same thing happening here when an action potential or a nerve impulse are come, they will fire the nerve and they will activate the circuit of the nerve. So what happen when you switch on the uh, when you switch on the light, light is on. So here when this action potential or nerve impulse are fired, the result is neuron will also start firing, and that a message can be spread throughout the neuronal circuit. Means when I switch on when I switch on the light, what happened? The electric will pass through a specific wire, and that will conducted and spread in a particular circuit, and that there is a light on. So when an action potential or nerve impulse when pass through a neuron, specific neuron with a specific message, then it will activate throughout the neuronal circuit. Same as electrical circuit, it will activate the neuronal circuit. It is estimated that well over half of all synapses in the brain release glutamate, making it is the dominant neurotransmitter used for the neuronal circuit communication. So this is the glutamate, which is the major abundant neurotransmitter which we are found in the brain and central nervous system. It is the major excitatory neurotransmitter, and it's act like a electrical circuit. When we switch on the when we switch on the light, then there is an electric pass through the wire, and it will activate the entire whole circuit, and then light is on. In same manner, when an action potential is come and or a nerve impulse is come, it will pass through a neuron and it will activate the neuronal circuit, and it will activate the excitation of that particular area, and the message whatever the neuron is carried, this message is spread throughout the circuit. So glutamate, it is also a metabolic precursor for the neurotransmitter called GABA. Earlier class we are already discussed about the GABA. It's a major inhibitory neurotransmitter, but it is basically synthesized from the excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate. Inhibitory neurotransmitters are essential for the flip side of the coin. They decrease the likelihood and the neuron they act upon will fire. So, by this glutamate and GABA excitation and inhibition by both the mechanism, they will maintain the homeostasis of the central nervous system and brain. Then the question is comes arise in your mind that what does glutamate do? So, if we considering the brain, a groups of neuron, or you can say that a nerve cell from neuronal circuit to carry out specific small scale function, formation or retrieval of the memory. This neuronal circuit interconnected with each other to form a large scale brain network which carry out the more complex function. So, first there is a formation of the specific small scale function, formation and retrieval of the memory. Then this neuronal circuit interconnected with each other and make a large scale brain network which carry out the more complex function like hearing, vision, movement, this all other thing they are maintaining. In order to get the individual nerve cell to work together across this network, some time of communication between them is needed, and one way it is accomplished by a chemical messenger molecule that is called neurotransmitter. So, nerve is there and individual nerve is there in brain and central nervous system in all in the part. So, what happened? We need to this all nerve are work together, then we will get the ultimate result. If we want to work together this nerve, so they need a communication between them. So, they need a communication between them, and this is accomplished or achieved by a using a chemical messenger, that is molecule, that is called neurotransmitter. So, glutamate here plays an communication link between the nerve and act as a neurotransmitter and plays an prominent role in the neuronal circuit involved with the synaptic plasticity, the ability of the strengthening or weakening of signaling between the neurons over the time to shape learning and memory. It's a major player in the subset of plasticity and it's called long term potentiation, LTP. So, in brain, if we are considering, the brain does not grow new neuron to store the memories. Whatever memory we are storing in our brain, our brain does not grow new neuron to store the memory. Only it can work, it strength the connection between the existing neuron. What neuron already have in our brain, it can strengthen the connection in between them. This is the process is called long term potentiation. Because of this and other role of the glutamatergic system is paramount or fast signaling and information processing in neuronal network. Glutamate signaling is critical in brain region including the cortex and hippocampus, which are fundamental for cognitive function, and glutamate receptor are widely expressed throughout the CNS, not only in neuron but also in the glial cell. Because it is the main molecule which promoting the neuronal excitation, and glutamate is the principal mediator of cognition, emotion, sensory, information and motor coordination, and is responsible for the linking to the activity of the most other neurotransmitter system. But glutamate is not more is better. If we are thinking that glutamate is involving in learning in our and maintaining in our memory system. So in large quantity or large amount it will be better or helpful to us, but this is a myth and this is not exactly true. More glutamate is not better. Glutamatergic communication require the right concentration of the glutamate to be released in the right place for only small amount of the time. So basically neurotransmitter release from presynaptic nerve terminal to the postsynaptic nerve terminal. In between there is a synaptic cleft. In that particular position this neurotransmitter are released and then they bind to their specific receptor and then they show their activity or responsibilities. Okay. So in glutamatergic communication, it is an excitatory neurotransmitter. In its communication it's required the right concentration. It's not we required much more concentration or higher concentration. Right concentration of the glutamate to be released in the right place only for small duration of time, not for long duration of time, because you can know that if it is long duration of time, then later on I will come to the glutamatergic receptor and all other things, then you will observe that what will go to happen. So the right concentration, right amount, right place and for small duration of time. Less than this result in the poor communication. If the right concentration of the glutamate are not secreted in the synaptic cleft, then there is a poor communication. If more than that, there is that will be neurotoxic and can responsible for damaging your neuron and neuronal network also. The glutamate neurotransmitter and the Goldilocks principle. So glutamate signaling is an example of what sometimes referred to as the Goldilocks principle. So glutamate signaling we can refer to as Goldilocks principle. If you fairly tell the story, Goldilocks basically tests three different bowls of produce. The first is too cold, the second is too hot and third is the right temperature. This concept of a just the right amount has widespread application including in cognitive science. In cognitive science, the principle can refer to a process where the same neurotransmitter or uh, medication like glutamate can have both antagonistic and agonistic property, so that it can maintain or balance the excitation of the neuron. It can also apply in situation where too little or too much stimulation by the same signaling molecule is linked for the suboptimal performance, but some middle ground amount produces the healthy responses. So the Goldilocks principle basically it is depend upon the three things. First it is too cold, the second is too hot and third one is the just right temperature. So it does, what does it mean? It mean that the if less amount, then the activity of the subminimal. If high amount, then activity of the toxic level. But if the desired concentration, the activity of the just. Whenever our body it is too cold means there is a deficiency in temperature, too hot means there is a increase in temperature, but if it is in right, the temperature temperature will be right at that time. So it is the main thing of the Goldilocks principle. When you are thinking about things that follow the Goldilocks principle, it's an important to avoid black white or good bad thinking. The key thing is to focus on that there is a just right amount, often a range where the best result are produced. So whenever you are considering the Goldilocks principle, you never thought about the good, bad, black, white, or like that. The key thing or the main important thing is the right amount of glutamate is secreted in the synaptic lab and bind to the receptor and produce the right result and produce the best result and produce the desirable result for what we need. So good glutamate follows the Goldilocks principle. Too little glutamate excitation can result in difficulties in the concentrating or mental exhaustion, but too much can result in the excitotoxicity, which can damage you the nerve cell. So according to the Goldilocks principle, the theory is like that: if the secretion of the glutamate is little, then your concentration level and mental exhaustion is common. But if there is a excess amount of the glutamate is released, then there is a toxicity which can damage the neuron. So the right amount of the glutamate should be released, and the right amount of the should be glutamate they present there for a small amount of the time and produce the right result. This is the principle of Goldilocks. Now synthesis of glutamate. Glutamate does not cross the blood-brain barrier and must be synthesized in neuron from building block molecule, means precursor molecule. So glutamate are not able to cross the blood-brain barrier, so it is synthesized in neuron from their precursor that can get into the brain, means the precursor molecule which can enter into the brain. In the brain, the precursor molecule, that is the glutamine, is the fundamental building block for the glutamate. The most prevalent biosynthetic pathway synthesize glutamate from glutamate using an enzyme called glutaminase. So here in picture you can see that there is a glutamine which with the help of enzyme glutaminase converted to the glutamate. So this glutamate further incorporated into the TCA cycle. Later on I will describe in details. TCA cycle with the help of enzyme glutamate oxaloacetate transaminase, it is converted into alpha ketoglutarate. Then this alpha ketoglutarate further, this is the reversible reaction, can convert it to the glutamate according to the body's need, according to the body's demand. From alpha ketoglutarate to the glutamate and glutamate to the alpha ketoglutarate synthesis will occur, but in brain glutamine with the help of enzyme glutaminase it converted to the glutamate. Further, this glutamate with the help of glutamate decarboxylase it converted to the inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. This is the first step of the synthesis. Next, glutamate can also be produced from the glucose. This is the second process how glutamate is synthesized through a metabolic pathway that begins with the conversion of glucose to pyruvate. What it is called? The process is called glycolysis, from where glucose is converted to pyruvate. This pyruvate further converted to the acetyl coenzyme A. This acetyl coenzyme A enter into the tricarboxylic acid cycle or TCA cycle, or you can also known as Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. The TCA cycle forms multiple important intermediates. One of these important intermediates is alpha ketoglutarate. Alpha ketoglutarate can be used to produce glutamate, an enzyme with that is called glutamate dehydrogenase, which used vitamin B3 and NAD plus as a coenzyme in responsible for this reaction. The same enzyme can reconvert glutamate back into the alpha ketoglutarate. Because of this enzyme, glutamate and alpha ketoglutarate can be continuously converted into each other according to our body's demand, according to our needs. This dynamic equilibrium is a key intersection between anabolic and catabolic pathway and allows the body to shift resources in whichever direction is required. So, from glucose glycolysis, then TCA cycle, then there is a formation of alpha ketoglutarate, from that there is a formation of the glutamate, then this glutamate and alpha ketoglutarate, there is a further conversion from one to another. This will depend upon the body's need, this will depend upon on the body's requirement, and depending upon this it will synthesize in our body. So, here you can see that this is the glucose 6 phosphate pyruvate. Pyruvate is converted to the acetyl coenzyme A, which is incorporated into the TCA cycle, and TCA cycle alpha ketoglutarate, glutarate dehydrogenase converted to the glutamate, and there is aminotransferase which further convert the glutamate into the alpha ketoglutarate. Then from glutamine, with the help of SLC1A5 gene, it's converted to the glutamine. Then there is a nucleotide synthesis, then this glutamine with the help of enzyme GLS, it's converted to the glutamate. This glutamate is either utilized by the body or neither, it will convert it into the alpha ketoglutarate. Then this alpha ketoglutarate, which is the important component of the TCA cycle and which is responsible for the production of the ATP also. Now, signaling. So, the basically neurotransmitter, what is the main thing? The main thing of neurotransmitter is the signaling. So, neurotransmitter including glutamate basically convey the information from one neuron to the other neuron. Means one send the message and target one receive the message. Like mobile conversion, you are sending some text and someone receive the text. Okay. So, it will convey information from one neuron, that is called message sender, and the other target neuron, that is called the message recipient with the neuronal circuit. After synthesis, glutamate is transported into the synaptic vesicle via the vesicular glutamate transporter. This transport and basically where it is stored occur in the message sending neuron in anticipation of needing to send glutamate message in further. So, after synthesis, this glutamate are stored in the vesicle in the presynaptic cleft. Glutamate is stored in this vesicle until a nerve impulse triggered the release of the glutamate into the synaptic cleft. Previously in gamma, one thing I am discussing that when an action potential is generating, this action potential will ultimately opening the calcium channel. This calcium channel triggered the vesicle. This vesicle release the neurotransmitter. This neurotransmitter comes to the synaptic cleft. After coming to the synaptic cleft, they bind to the specific receptor at the postsynaptic cleft and shown up their response. So, in the same manner, the glutamate are from the storage vesicle when impulse, action potential or nerve impulse trigger the vesicle, and this triggering will release the glutamate into the synaptic cleft and start a receptor mediated signaling process. Neuron with glutamate receptor protein, glutamate receivers, response to the glutamate in the synaptic cleft. Means presynaptic cleft release the glutamate into the synaptic cleft. Now, postsynaptic cleft, which basically having the receptor, they are receive the glutamate and they will show the activity. There are two general type of the glutamate receptor are present. One type we are called, that is the inotropic receptor. Glutamate binding to this receptor allows the entry of ions electrically charged minerals such as sodium or calcium into the cell. There are basically three classes of the inotropic glutamate receptor are present. Number one is N-methyl D-aspartate, that is known as NMDA. Second one is alpha amino 3 hydroxy 5 methyl 4 isoxazole propionic acid AMPA, and next one is kinase receptor. Now come to the picture. In this picture, first you come. This is the first where the word written excitatory glutamate synapse. This is the presynaptic cleft where glutamine with the help of glutaminase, glutamine which is shown in green color, and with the help of enzyme glutaminase which is converted to the glutamate, that is shown in red color. Then action potential nerve impulse comes and store in vesicle, and action potential comes and entry of the calcium and allow the vesicle to release the glutamate into the synaptic cleft. You can see that here large amount of the red spot are there. This large amount of the red spot are the synaptic cleft. In this synaptic cleft there is a glutamate are present. Now after that you can see that there is a postsynaptic cleft. In postsynaptic cleft there is a two different type of the receptor are there. One is inotropic receptor and another one is metabotropic or G protein coupled receptor. Inotropic receptor basically regulated through the ion channel, already I discussed, and metabotropic and G protein coupled receptor via activation of different second messenger, third messenger, they are also influence the ionic movement and responsible for the excitatory action of the glutamate. So first one you can see that is NMDA receptor. In NMDA receptor you can see that the yellow color that indicate the calcium enter inside the cell, and along with there is a sodium. The sodium also enter inside the cell, but AMPA receptor only sodium are allowed to inside the cell, and there is a kinase receptor which is also allowed to enter the sodium inside the cell. The drug ketamine and phencyclidine, which basically inhibit the NMDA or block the NMDA receptor. Now you can see that extrasynaptic NMDA receptor are also present, and extrasynaptic NMDA receptor increase the ambient amount of the glutamate which bind and allow the movement of the ion which produce the excitotoxicity, means neuronal death, and in this place this glutamate are enter into the glial cell via glutamate transporter. With the help of glutamate synthetase, it will convert it to the glutamine. Then this glutamine from glial cell further enter into the presynaptic cleft, where presynaptic cleft with the help of enzyme glutaminase it is further converted to the glutamate. So in this manner or in this fusion the glutamate will synthesize, utilize, and then further converted to the glutamine, and whenever body required as per requirement it will further converted to the glutamate and then further release into the synaptic cleft and bind to the specific receptor and shown the activity. The second type of receptor are linked molecule that will activate the intracellular signaling pathway subsequent to the glutamate binding. These are called G protein coupled receptor or metabotropic receptor. This metabotropic glutamate receptor modulate the synaptic transmission, neuronal communication by regulating the activity of a wide variety of the ion channel including the inotropic glutamate receptor as well as receptor for the other neurotransmitter. So here you can see that this is the G protein couple receptor, which is associated with the alpha beta gamma subunit GDP. Upon binding of the glutamate, activation of this, that there is a GTP is converted to the GTP along with alpha subunit, that will activate the phospholipase P2, and this phospholipase P2 is converted to the inositol triphosphate IP3. This will influence the endoplasmic reticulum to open the calcium channel and release the more amount of the calcium, and there is a diacylglycerol which increase the protein kinase, protein phosphorylation, and then ultimately leads to the excitatory activity of the glutamate. This is basically when alpha Q subunit is bind, then PPI2 and DAG will get activated. If it bind to the alpha I subunit, it decrease the activity of the adenyl cyclase, decrease the CMP, regulation of the ion channel and phospholipase, and it is bind to the alpha S subunit, then increase the activity of the adenyl cyclase, increase CMP and protein kinase, and increase the phosphorylation, then allow the ionic movement, and then ultimately responsible for the excitation or whatever the message, whatever the pharmacological response they want to show, you can get the result upon this pathway. Then cleanup. So now we come first, what is glutamate, what is neurotransmitter, how it is synthesized, how it is stored, how it is released, how it is bind to the specific receptor, and then cleanup is also very important. The next phase of neurotransmission is cleanup. Signaling basically is based on the relative changes, not absolute amount. In a quiet room, the human ear might detect a whisper. In a loud nightclub, it might not hear a shout also. So neurotransmitter work on similar principle. Short burst of glutamate produce response, but for the best response to occur with the smallest amount of the glutamate, the space between the neuron need to be equivalent to a quiet room, and glutamate also follow the Goldilocks principle. Too little and signaling within neuronal network is subpar, but too much can be neurotoxic. So desired amount it should release. For this reason, the glutamate in the extracellular space between neuron need to be continuously removed. So what happen? If you follow the Goldilocks principle, we need the desired amount, not small, not more. So we need the desired amount. So what happen when glutamate is synthesized, released in the synaptic cleft? So there is a continuous removal or cleanup of the glutamate also occur, which will maintain the Goldilocks principle. Neurotransmitter cleanup is commonly combination of either transporting some of the neurotransmitter back into the cell, either return back to the cell, then neither inactivating the neurotransmitter that left floating the space between the cell or synaptic cleft, while the first of this process is applied in glutamate. Means there is two process, either transporting back into the cell, neither inactivation of the neurotransmitter by the enzyme. But in case of the glutamate, the first one is applicable, transporting some of the neurotransmitter back into the cell, because there is no such enzyme is available which will metabolize or inactivate the glutamate in extracellular space. This means that glutamate can interact with its receptor continuously until it diffuse away or taken up by the cellular transporter for reuse or recycling. So in this case you can observe that, so there is no enzymatic system, means whatever the amount of glutamate present in the synaptic cleft, they will continuously interact with the receptor. if it is not recycled or it is not transported back to the cell. So maintaining the Goldilocks principle, you have to transport back to the cell for recycling purpose. So here you can see that presynaptic neuron vesicle release the glutamate. This glutamate 20% bind to the postsynaptic neurons. Remaining 80% of the glutamate are converted to the glutamine with the help of enzyme, and that glutamine are enter into the presynaptic neuron and store in the vesicle for further use or recycling. And there is astrocyte or glial cell which is also use the converted the glutamate into the glutamine into the presynaptic neurons, and some amount of glutamate is enter into the TCA cycle as a alpha ketoglutarate, what already I discussed, alpha ketoglutarate, and incorporated into the TCA cycle and responsible for the production of ATP. So glutamate synaptic left 20% bind to the postsynaptic neuron, remaining 80% in the form of glutamine are stored in the vesicle presynaptic neuron, and astrocyte or glial cell converted the glutamate into the glutamine and store into the presynaptic neuron whenever we are required. Then this further converted to the glutamate and synthesized into the synaptic cleft, and some amount of the glutamate are incorporated into the TCA cycle as a alpha ketoglutarate and responsible for the production of ATP. Some glutamate can be taken up into neuron. This is done by the excitatory amino acid transporter, that is called glutamate transporter, but much of the released glutamate is taken up by the type of glial cell, that is called as astroglia or astrocyte. Astroglia surrounds synapse and plays an important role in area including the nervous system repair, metabolic support of the neuron, and neurotransmitter cleanup. The combination of neuron and supporting astroglia are responsible for emptying the synaptic cleft of glutamate to turn off the signal and reset the system for generation and propagation of the next glutamate signal. In this cleanup role, astroglial act to protect the neuron from the glutamate excitotoxicity, which will leads to the neuron death or neuronal damage. Once glutamate has been taken up by the astrocyte, it reacts with the ammonia to form glutamine. Through the activity of the glutamine synthetase, glutamine is then exported to the extracellular fluid where it is taken up by the neuron, starting the glutamate synthesis process again. Means the glutamate synthesis process will start again from the glutamine. This sequence of convert is referred to as the glutamate-glutamine cycle. It is how the nervous system ensure it maintain the adequate supply of the glutamate. Here you can see that this is the same thing what already I the glutamate, this is the NMDA, AMPA, kainate receptor are there. So an action potential that glutaminase converted to the glutamate. This glutamate released into the synaptic cleft. From synaptic cleft it bind to the different receptor, inotropic receptor, G protein couple receptor, and will responsible for its pharmacological action. And rather amount of the glutamate is taken up by the astroglial cell where it converted to the glutamate is converted to the glutamine with the help of glutamine synthetase. Then it will enter into the presynaptic neuron, and some amount of glutamate is converted to the alpha ketoglutarate with the help of enzyme that is known as glutamate dehydrogenase with the using the coenzyme vitamin B3. So this is the glutamate and glutamine cycling process. Whenever our body need, whenever our body's requirement, they will convert from one to another and it will show the pharmacological activity or pharmacological action. Glutamate and long-term potentiation. Long-term potentiation occur in many brain regions involved in the memory process, including the neocortex, the amygdala, and the striatum. But it is the hippocampus that is the most extensively studied. Different area of the brain can have varying molecular mechanism of long-term potentiation, but overall glutamate signaling plays the largest role. Learning and memory are thought to be fundamentally associative. This means we are able to recall new information better if we associate it with something we already know. Glutamate signaling has unique properties that allows neuron to build association, so is it at the foundation of the memory building. So glutamate plays an important role in the foundation of the memory building. Then glutamate excitotoxicity. And glutamate excitotoxicity, sometimes it is also called as glutamatergic storm, referred to the damage to the nerve cell caused by the excessive stimulation of the NMDA and AMPA receptor by the glutamate. Already regarding the toxicity and neuronal death already I discussed. So this is the glutamate excitotoxicity, and these are the reference from where I am collecting the data and I am presenting in front of you. Thank you.